Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursdays. We're very glad you're with us today. It is November 11th, Veterans Day. For those who are veterans out there, thank you very much for your service today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just open the chat box, put your questions in the chat box. We'll get those questions answered for you at the end of the presentation. For those watching on Facebook, you're welcome to enter your questions in the comment field. We are monitoring that feed. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you at the end of the presentation. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window do not appear in the recording. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help people around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our program that we're having tomorrow at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. You spend a lot of time on resumes, a lot of time networking, a lot of time on LinkedIn. How much time do you spend practicing your interviewing skills? The PIC Crew offers free practice interviews. If you're interested, please reach out to me and I'll be glad to get that information to you. Well, every session, every networking session we do, we've had a different speaker talk to us for the month of November and December. We're actually going to be revisiting a speaker that we've heard before, one of the speakers that are on here. This week, our speaker is Heidi Torres. She's going to talk about how serving turns into networking opportunities. Heidi called me this morning. She had a death in her family, so she won't be with us live. So what I'm doing is I'm replaying the session that she did back in May. So it's about 40 minutes long, and as soon as that's over, we'll answer whatever questions you've got.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Torres, AKA HR Heidi. I've been an HR generalist for Heron HR. Lots of HRs there, right? We're a consultancy firm that provides customized HR programs and services for small and medium-sized businesses. Recently, I joined the author ranks of Mr. Morris here, and I wrote a book called The CEOs of Networking, Connecting, Engaging, and the Opportunities to Serve. I am also a practice interview team crew volunteer panelist, and I'm really excited to be that. And just to kind of share, I do sit on the Dallas HR's operation board, and I'm the student engagement committee director-elect. I am the North Texas SHRM brand ambassador and the president for West Texas A&M SHRM chapter also. And for those who know me, near and dear to my heart, I'm also on the mission committee chairperson for the Grayson County Walk to End Alzheimer's. So I share all this with you, not to toot my horn, I promise it really isn't, but it will go into later as I'm talking. Because of those different opportunities, it leads to how we're talking about today. This is why we're talking about how serving can turn into networking opportunities. So I know we're going to talk about why networking, and I know pretty much y'all know why we need a network. We're going to talk about volunteering benefits, and we're going to talk about becoming an advocate or a connector. Okay. So the fact that you're here means you understand the importance of networking. So these facts are probably not new to you, right? 80% of the jobs that are filled through personal and professional connections. Professional and personal. So I just really want to share that. Companies often reward their employees for referrals, right? Someone who is referred, they're 9 times more likely to get hired. Now, the people who do the referring do it for a number of reasons. Most of it is not to get the reward, but they usually, that's the cherry on top. But referrers show their giving side. And this is a side that a lot of people do not even want to admit that they have. And I'm going to say they need to. This is something that you should be proud of, is that giving side. So there are givers, there are takers, and there are matchers, right? I hope you're not a taker, but even if you are, takers can learn to be givers. And I actually read this book recently. If you haven't read it, I do recommend it. It's called The Give and Take by Adam Grant. So let's just kind of talk about this real quick. Takers, they like to get more than they give. I mean, that's kind of in its name, right? And then matchers believe kind of tit for tat, right? I do for you, you do for me. And it's almost like a sum zero game with matchers. Givers focus on helping others where their interests, they tend to be mentors, they'll share credit, they make connections, and they all do this without keeping score, right? And most people are not all one type or another. I mean, they're not. We tend to be a mix of givers and takers and matchers depending on the circumstance. Grant says that we might be a taker when we're negotiating salary, and that's okay. Givers are like those who actually will mentor someone with, that may have less experience or just kind of teaching how things go along. And then matchers are kind of those who can share experiences with colleagues. So they're your peers, right? And so we're not all necessarily all one or the other all the time. I mean, there are some who have tendencies more towards one than the other. And, that's that side. We're not all one. Now, kind of mentioned this, a lot of times you'll hear people say, or they don't want to admit necessarily that they're a giver, right? They think that it might show some vulnerability to be a giver. The truth is being a giver is a strength, right? In the book, there is actually, I can't think of her name, but she talks about that fine line of being, why people don't want to be known as givers because they think that their boss will think they're a doormat or something like that. And so there's different ways to act about that. Now, you can just read the book. I'm not going to really talk about that. But what I want to say is that some of the greatest political figures and leaders of our time are givers, right? Abraham Lincoln is a huge giver, right? If you don't know who Adam Rifkin is, he's the CEO of Panda Whale. Google him. He's a great connector. SHRM-CP, she was one of the principals for Vanguard Investments, known as a giver and successfully at the top of her field, right? Bill Grumbles, I think he was the HBO VP, also known as a giver. I mean, by his presence and everything, you would not know that one is like one at the top of his field. A name you're probably also familiar with is Ariane Huffington, right? She's the CEO of Thrive Global, all known to be givers. And not necessarily givers of their money, although I'm sure that they did, but they were givers of their time and their expertise. Okay, so this is one of my favorite quotes. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Now, I'm not saying you have to be like Gandhi or even Mother Teresa, but I have actually dedicated whole chapters or a whole chapter of volunteering as a form of networking, because it is something that it's easy to do and it actually has great benefits in the long run, right? And I know a lot of you will say, I don't have time to volunteer. I mean, job searching is a full-time job in itself. And I get you. I was there. 9 months ago, I was right there with you. And plus, the weather right now is way too gorgeous. You're like, oh, I don't want to be doing something. Or maybe, my family needs me right now. And I just don't have time to volunteer or serve. And here's what I say to that. Taking time to invest in others is taking time to invest in you. And you are worth investing in. So we're going to talk a little bit more about volunteering and serving, right? The good news is that the National Community Service reported that people who volunteer 100 hours a year are some of the healthiest people in the United States, right? The studies show that the act of helping others can actually lower your blood pressure. It fights depression and reduces stress, which can boost a person's immune system and promote longer life. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm all for living longer. All right. And I'm not bad at movies quotes, but it's like that little, they're saying, want to get high? Psychology today actually says that giving may increase the brain's dopamine levels, right? Resulting in what they call a virtual helper's high. Now, research also shows that volunteering can boost an individual's confidence, self-esteem, and help find their purpose in life, right? In Grant's book, he explained that 100 hours a year is only 2 hours a week, and it would lead to an increase in satisfaction, of happiness, and self-esteem by the end of the year. Now, the average person actually volunteers about 52 hours a year. So increasing that by just 1 extra hour is health beneficial. Do we have a question? No, okay. Sorry, I thought I saw something. Okay. So about 25% of the adult population actually volunteers their time, their talents, and uses their energy to make an impact, right? Without volunteers, many charitable nonprofits would not be able to conduct their programs, raise funds, or serve their clients. I mean, Jeff Morris is a leading example of a career DFW of his, none of this could be done without his willingness to help people in transition. And we would not even be here at this meeting now. So thank you, Jeff. There is actually a dollar value, a monetary value of what they call for a volunteer's work hour. And it averages out to be about $25 to $26 an hour, right? And kind of an interesting stat from the Bureau of Labor Statistics said that 72% of volunteers only serve one organization or cause. Now I can't see everyone out there, so maybe Jeff can kind of look. Can y'all just raise your hands of anyone who does any volunteers for at least one cause? Okay. Any hands?
There's a couple hands up. It's just a matter of most people have their camera turned off, so we can't see if they're raising a hand, but they're using their, oh yeah, there's 5 or 6 people who raise their hands, 6 people, 7, 8, 9, up to 10 so far.
Love it. Can we pop it in chat and say like maybe some of the causes that you volunteer in for?
Yeah, for those people who volunteer, please put in the chat box to let us know where you're volunteering at. At my church, SFG, I guess South Lake Focus Group, Autism Speaks,
Nice.
volunteering at church, Six Stones, Youth,
Awesome.
Church Financial Peace University, the Food Bank,
Love
Children's Development Center,
Children are our future.
Kids Camp,
Oh, very cool.
North Texas Food Bank, Math Tutoring.
I might need some math tutoring. I'm pursuing my MBA, and I got in the spring. I'm taking financial something or other, accounting and too. And I'm like, oh, I'm just not good at it. Anyways, I love that. I love to hear that. And I think a lot of it kind of resonates why when they say most 72% picks one cause, because usually it generates to us, right? We have a connection to that. Now, I kind of mentioned earlier, right, that I'm part of multiple organizations and I sit on those committees and boards, right? So out of the 6 HR nonprofit organizations that I'm actually on the committees and boards of half of those, right? And the question is, well, why? Well, because it aligns with my profession. And serving on them does not significantly increase the amount of volunteering time, right? But it gives me exposure to those in my field. So my recommendation for you, still support the causes that you're supporting, because I think those are awesome. But I didn't really hear a whole lot of ones that pertain to various industry specific roles. And I would encourage you to research that, go on LinkedIn or Google it and see what organizations out there aligns with your profession. And if you can start volunteering on those, start asking about them, seeing what activities are doing. And it may actually be just one-off events. It might be something ongoing, but that's also a way in, one, to learn more about those organizations and learning how they affect your industry or your jobs is a perfect way. When I was job seeking, right, I actually, like you, spent all week. I had my blocked time set for looking for work, setting up interviews, sending informational interviews, and volunteering, right? And a lot of those organizations also have different networking events. And 9 times out of 10, those networking events are free, right? Especially if you belong to the members. And like the organization I belong in, they actually have a transition or job seeker discount to be a member of those organizations. So for those who are in transition. So being a part of that, again, exposing, and networking, getting your face in front of those people and letting them see it. Plus, when you volunteer, you are showing skills, right? Because they're different skills. I mean, there's one thing when they have one-off events to help package food or something like that. But there may be other skills that they need that you are aligned with that you could help with. And that's okay to ask about that. So I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself. But anyways, when you're doing that, you're actually building your human capital. And that's, for me, being exposed, being in front of these people led to my last 3 professional roles, right? Otherwise, because I would have never landed any of my last 3 roles had it not been for networking. Now, 35% of those surveyed actually said one of the reasons they volunteer is to socialize, right? So for those who, have a job, they're out there networking, they're out there volunteering, they're doing it to socialize. And that is your in also. This is your in to get with them, right? Because it's still that commonality. It's still that building that bond that you are showing an interest in. And I know when we think about volunteering, like I said, we kind of think about the food banks and shelters, which are all very important. But there are nonprofits out there that need skilled volunteers. I think personally, like the practice interview team crew, a PIC crew. I love being a part of that team because it helps keep me in shape for interviewing people, for prospective people, right? So from my HR perspective, that helps. From a management level, that helps, because as a manager, even when I wasn't in HR, I was still hiring people and I still needed that skill to practice. So that is a skill. It's a skill. Hiring people, interviewing people is a skill. Manager skill, HR, right? So Deloitte Impact Survey actually showed that 77% of nonprofits believe that skilled volunteers could significantly improve their organization's business practices, but they need the volunteers. So that's something, seek out how to use your skills. Activities that encourage opportunities. I actually know the founder of WER community, Women's Entrepreneurs Resource and Educational Community, right? Dress for Success. I know in the past I've helped volunteer with them. They empower women to achieve economic independence, and they provide support, professional attire, development tools. We talked about the PIT crew. We talked about career DFW. So talk about outside of my profession, I am partial to Alzheimer's Association and Komen's breast cancer. I part of all those. And I will tell you that being a part of those groups has actually helped me professionally, because I connected with someone else, and that was just our only connection, was just that we were both in these same groups and we both supported it, but we formed and bonded over those, right? And huge support. Different shelters, the food banks, school alumni. Now I know that we probably heard about that. Check out your school alumni. LinkedIn is a great source to see of all the people that went through your school. And then they still have their career connections. So you're the career advisors. There's nothing to say you can't reach out to those people too, to see other people, other connections and what companies they're working in. Do not forget the spiritual organizations, any churches, temples, mosques, even if you're not of those spiritual individual beliefs, they do have a lot of resources that can help you. And I'm personally a person, now this is just me, I believe that regardless of faith, we're all kind of going the same way, and I think we should all help each other. So it's just, volunteermatch.org, I think, can also help you find different volunteering opportunities in your area. And target companies. Now we talk about your target companies for informational interviews, but target companies also post where they volunteer at. They post what kind of events that they champion, and I don't know. I think it's perfectly okay to cyber stalk them and see what they're looking, what they're supporting, and then hey, if you happen to support those groups too, there's another N. AmeriCorps is also another great way to check out different volunteers for that. So just kind of throwing that out there. So when I volunteer, it's one thing when you go to these different networking events and you say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm looking for this opportunity, or I'm so-and-so and I can do this and that. When you volunteer, you show what you can do. And that's what worked for me. When I started going to different volunteering events and organizations and started working, I stopped telling people what I could do and say, I stopped telling people, say why you should hire me. I started showing them why you should hire me. Last year, during when the pandemic really just got going and 18 million people were out of work, I was just finishing up my bachelor's degree and didn't have anything lined up. Right? So, all right. And then everyone else seemed to be out of work too. And so I thought, well, what can I do? Not for what can I do for me, but what can I do for the people that were out of work? And one of my other favorite quotes is actually by my Mother Teresa. And she says, if you can't feed 100 people, feed one. And what I gained now from that is, if you can't help hundreds of people, help one, right? But I thought I could do a little better than one. So I could maybe do 20. 20 was my initial goal. I can help 20 people land a job, right? And so I started a program. I started my program, HR Heidi Heads Up, where anybody I heard that had a job opening, I would post it, right? And then I would tag people that I knew were looking for that role. And I did it on a weekly basis, and it went to twice a week basis and that kind of thing. And then I did a HR Heidi highlights where people were in transition, and I would do like a mini, I took from the pit crew, I stole from this idea of pit crew and really video record a highlight of them, just a quick 3-minute video of why people should hire them, right? Because who talks about video being really popular, but I will tell you, I'm horrible at sitting in just in front of a camera and just doing my just that. I'm not that. And so a lot of people are afraid of that too. And I thought, well, you could have a gateway video. So this is what I'm saying. I started these programs to help others, but it got me noticed also, right? Because my current employer actually reached out to me and said, hey, do you know for someone for this other job? And I gave her a list of names of people that I knew. And that was on top of mine. But when she came to actually needing someone for herself, she reached out to me. So that was something I shared with you too. I demonstrated that I knew what I was doing by doing it for free without asking for anything in return. So. Okay, so what are employers looking for, right? Well, volunteering and serving can lead to improving skills that employers are looking for, right? So when you're in your community and you can literally demonstrate the skills that you have to do, or maybe improve upon those skills. So I was thinking about this before the pandemic, and I will tell you my Zoom skills was not very good. But I learned Zoom pretty well. I got Google Meets, right? Teams now, oh, Teams, my bane sometimes. But anyways, definitely improved. And then, you know, social media content, exposure, leading. I've gotten more comfortable. I became more comfortable talking people with one-on-one and literally just coaching them one-on-one on how to improve things, how to what resources that we could access, right? These are way to do it, and time management skills. You know, I thought I was good at time management before. I'm way better now. My calendar is full. But this is what volunteering can help you with, you know, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. If you're already, there's virtual volunteering. I know for literally when I like Dallas HR, they are looking for people virtually to send out emails, to communicate with other members. And it doesn't really take that much time, right? It doesn't take much time, and it's a skill that you can show that you use and you can do. So we talked about a little bit about how 72% of the volunteers serve only one organization and one cause. And definitely, if you haven't volunteered at all, choose one that does align with you, right? Choose one that you are passionate about, because when you connect with other people, it'll be something you bond over, right? And it doesn't even have to talk about, you know, you're out of work or you're looking, or right now you can focus on what you're helping others, and it's going to make you feel so much better. You will feel better. I mean, they talk about, that's why the whole longevity and the dopamine levels, you will feel better when you help someone. So it's exciting. Like right now, I'm telling you, I'm really excited. I'm really happy to be here to talking with y'all and sharing this. And it makes me feel good. And chunking, talk about time management. They actually say that chunking volunteer. So if you can get all your volunteer done in one day, it actually gives you better benefits through the whole week. But I shared before about the Komen and Alzheimer, because it's dear to do it, right? My mother-in-law is a breast cancer survivor, and I lost my father to Alzheimer's. And while I fundraised for them for years, you know, it's one of those things that it worked for my mother-in-law. She's a survivor. I love her, love it, love it, love it. And when my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I admit, I didn't know anything about Alzheimer's. And I was one of those people thought, okay, I'm just going to throw myself into fundraising and maybe they'll find a cure in time for my father. It's unrealistic. It didn't happen. But it did show the importance of needing that these organizations do need, and why we need to help different, whatever is important to you, but why we need to help them and why they need support, right? So I am the third year the mission committee chairperson. And like I kind of mentioned, there were people in that group that have supported me professionally, just because they know me and they know that we support the same cause. That commonality will bond you It will power up your career. Connecting to a cause that you can serve other than yourself will ultimately help you. I mean, it helped me. And then, volunteer with the groups that do align with the professions help also. So that's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah, Jeff, if you think about it, you can kind of target your volunteering because you can find out who's on the executive committees and boards of the different charities and not-for-profits, and go work as a volunteer, and then network your way into your target people. So you get, kill two birds with one stone. You make a contribution, and you find ways to get a chance to rub shoulders with influential people.
Exactly. That's so true. Have y'all heard of Tango Tab? So Tango Tab is I think it's out in Frisco. They do they build these lunches for people. So we kind of talk about how help feeding and that kind of thing. But a lot of organizations will partner together with Tango Tab, and they will blast out like a whole weekend of filling out lunches and stuff like that. I know when I was working at Alchemy, they was part of Tango Tab, and we all went there, and there were, oh my gosh, must have been like 15 organizations all there, all building meals and lunches. And they had it down to like a science. They were just like a system, but just rolling through. But it was like such a great way to network with your own group, but it was a great network to other organizations that were partnered there. And then I think I remember last year, well, it might have been actually a year before last, when I was at Minnie's Pantry. Again, they had like multiple companies, all their help volunteering throughout the day. And it was a huge event to connect with. Great system. And again, to help so many families and stuff like that. So yes, check out your target companies, look where they're volunteering at, check out who's on their board. And a lot of times on their LinkedIn profile, they will talk about where they volunteer or where they're open to volunteering at, that you could reach out to. So definitely.
So there's a great organization in Dallas called Executives in Action, and they pair you up with not-for-profits and charitable organizations that need help utilizing your specific expertise. I'm a CPA, so if you're an IT person, if you're HR, they have a lot of not-for-profits come to them to get talent to help them with specific items. And Executives in Action actually puts you through an interview process, so it's good exercise and practice, job interviewing and preparing. And and then Executives in Action has social functions on purpose to bring executive and hiring manager level people into social events so that you have an opportunity to meet some of them in a targeted environment. So, if you're somebody who's a little further along in your career and wants to give back in a targeted way based on your skill set, Executives in Action is an awesome organization.
Yeah. Let me show you on the Career DFW website. So this would be for anybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but it may be something you can also see. But here on the Career DFW website, so if you go to the home tab, over to groups, professional groups, and here's a list that if you were to print out is 18 pages long of professional groups in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And whatever you do, there's got to be a group that meets about that. Now, a lot of these, there'll be some national groups, like right here's a national group. You'll be able to maybe go backwards and find the national group that these are associated with. But, here's just, here's a great place to get started. Find your local group and network with these people, because, that is how you're gonna find your next, it's a good way to find your next job that way. And plus, it gives you a good feeling, networking, helping somebody out, helping somebody else out. It does build those endorphins and makes you feel good when you're done.
Yeah, just about all of those professional groups have some sort of volunteer arm, even outside of their own operations. So it's an awesome way to target your background in one of those groups, and at the same time find opportunities to volunteer.
This first time, Heidi, thanks for the presentation. It's really interesting. It's the first time I heard of virtual volunteering. Can you explain a little more about that? Because that sounds very interesting, especially with us all kind of tied in with all the coronavirus stuff. It sounds like it would be interesting. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes. So as an example, so one of the organizations that I'm with is Dallas HR, and all of their meetings went virtual, right? All of their committee meetings, everything went virtual, but at the same time, and their networking events all went virtual too. They needed people to reach out to potential members, and so that took a volunteer, right? That took a volunteer to do that. And they actually had a committee of people to align to other committees. And so the different volunteers would sign up, especially when they were new volunteers or new to the organization. They would call and say, hey, obviously, the pandemic, I can't be out with everyone, but is there a way I can help? And they would actually have different assignments. They would have different assignments, and they would call them like ambassadors. And some of it was to send emails, some of it was to call members, others was to contact vendors or sponsors. And so there was a lot of non-physical ways to help out. There was those who were really skilled at communications. So they were asked to come up with the different flyers and promotional materials that way. And they'd really just utilize any different skills that they could without being in a physical presence or in their office building, because everything went home. They were actually, the organization itself also shut down their offices, right? So, but that's just like one small way that they did that. I think there's a lot of different ways that people could do that too. When you, I think I talked about Minnie's Pantry before. When they reached out, they still had to reach out to their normal, like corporations. And they would have volunteers reach out to their contacts or their whole networks of people that normally donated, but may not have recently donated. They did it that way. They had people update their different spreadsheets. I'm not trying to think, there's like all kinds of different things. There are different systems. So a lot of the virtual stuff did turn out to be more office related, but it's still volunteering. It's still necessary. There was a lot of different fundraising events that people did for virtual events. So they had their virtual parties and that way to help fundraise. Like last year, they actually didn't have an in-person walk to end Alzheimer's. They didn't have an in-person walk, but they went virtual. And then like fundraising went virtual that way too, and hosted Zoom parties. And then you find a lot of businesses are trying to find ways to engage with their employees through Zoom and different virtual formats. Part of what DoorDash became really popular with, sending out all the food and everything to different events. So I guess the big thing about that is really just becoming comfortable with the technology. There's also been like different platforms, different networking platforms like Remo. I think there's a couple others out there that you can connect with, and a lot of groups, business groups have been utilizing those. But they also need IT people. And I actually ran a Zoom networking event not too long ago. And I have to tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy managing the breakout rooms and stuff. So yeah, it literally takes a village, even a virtual village, for volunteers.
You know, I think this is the most underutilized networking opportunity for several reasons. One of which is, who are you going to be around when you volunteer? You're going to be around other people who are looking for ways to help other people. What greater audience can you have to help you in your job search connect with people who are already motivated to help other people? I mean, if you just get out there and try a couple of these, you'll be astonished at the assistance you're going to get, the connections you're going to get. Some of these people will take your cause and run with it. And it's all because you're already in an atmosphere of wanting to help others. And you get a chance to help the same way in return. So get out there and do it. Try it. See what happens. I know anytime I've done it, I always make connections with at least 2 or 3 people who become active in helping me with my job search. So
I will also say that it looks good on your resume if you are the volunteers and that you sit on the different committees or lead in different committees. And the more you're on them, the more the more they want you to be on it, right? It kind of snowballs under that. And so I would highly encourage that. Plus, it would give you, improve your leadership skills for those aspects too. So when you're on the different organizations, it does show collaboration, it does show teamwork, and it takes skills to lead a nonprofit just as much as it does like when you're in a brick and mortar business or remote. It takes the same skills, and that shows that too. If you want to reach out and connect with me, please do. I know some of y'all know that I've actually had some consultations with some of y'all and helped and shared some resources, because I know that I saw some familiar faces and I really enjoy seeing y'all out there. So by all means, reach out, let's talk. If I can show any more individual help, I'm happy to do that too. So.
Well, great, Heidi. Thank you very, very much. Here's Heidi's LinkedIn profile if you want to reach out to her. If you do want to try to connect, please send that personal note. That way, she, let her know that you saw her here today doing this presentation. It would be, greatly appreciated. Whenever you send a LinkedIn invitation, always reach out and send that personal note. So you're looking for that blue connect button. Always make sure it's a blue connect button. A white one doesn't allow you to leave a message. Sorry about that. That's the end of Heidi's presentation. Once again, controlling all the buttons for Zoom here. Anybody have any questions or comments you'd like to make about, sharing and giving and helping networking through volunteering?
I'll make an additional note about Tango Tab.
Yeah.
There's an app that if you register with a particular restaurant that's listed on the app, all you do is touch the button restaurants and it tells you restaurants nearby. But if you register with that, Tango Tab will donate 1 meal to a food organization in that community.
Okay. Great way to help and give back. Any other comments or questions? All right, here. Well, let me share a few closing slides and we will get out of here today. Let's see here, get the right one. There we go. So there's Heidi's LinkedIn profile. If you'd like to connect with her, please reach out to her and you can do so. We will not be having a session. The 4th Thursday of the month happens to be Thanksgiving. So I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. In December, the 2nd Thursday in December, Mike Perry will be with us to talk about how to make networking strategies at work. So I met Mike. He's from the Ohio area. I saw him on a networking session a few months ago and invited him to come talk with us. A great presentation, basic information. So join us on December 9th. And that'll be the only session we have for networking in December, because then you've got Christmas and New Year's popping up. So we only have really 3 weeks in December for sessions coming up. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week, except for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's week. Tomorrow at the Friday North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting at 9:30 in the morning. Career DFW is turning 13. I give this presentation only once a year to the North Dallas group. Find out how to use Career DFW and Career USA in your job search. You'll get a little history about Career DFW. You will get, we'll take a look at the websites live so you can see what's on there and maybe things you're not familiar with. And then I'll share some of my top career tips at the very end of the session. Next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesday, Terry Sullivan will be with us to talk about how to create a LinkedIn brand that tells your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Please note this event will not be recorded, so if you want to watch it, you do need to watch it live next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Next Wednesday for Interviewing Wednesdays, we've completed our 13-part workshop that Mark and Walt put together for the months of November and December. We are doing special guest speakers. So Mark McDonald will be with us to talk about the confident candidate, lessons from the pit crew, lessons that he's seen over the years, that people, the good and the bad. So join Mark for next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And then next Thursday, being the third Thursday of the month, we'll be talking about resumes. Andy Cook will be with us to talk about selecting resume language. If you'd like to join the Career DFW and Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to do so. Over 13,000 members. You don't have to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group, but it's a great way to expand your connections. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. Otherwise, you'll see all the videos in chronological order. But by clicking on playlist, down below, you'll see the different playlists that I've put together, resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, networking. And then where you see that red arrow, click on the red arrow. Don't click on the video, but click on the red arrow. And what it will do is it will show you the list of topics and titles, and you can go back and watch any of the videos that you've seen in the past. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, you may do so. You will not be spammed, but what I do send out every day is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and the Zoom link for the day. That way you were able to just open the email, click on the link, and you'll be able to join us. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I've never gotten paid to do any of this over the last 13 years. This is what I do to give back to the community. Please consider making a donation when you get your next job. So thank you for joining us today. And everybody have a great rest of the afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning.